everyone, today we are talking about radical exponents. This is day 1 notes. To start, we're going to evaluate rational exponents. Some definitions. Expressions can have fractional exponents, and a fractional exponent is called a rational exponent. Definition: what is a rational exponent? An exponent that is a rational number. And what is a rational number? Well, rational exponent with a numerator 1 of 1. Rational numbers is a fraction number. So here's the first rule. Rational exponents with a numerator of 1, and you can definitely see right here. So there's a fraction. The only thing is you're going to put the n in the index number position, and then you can just put down a square root, where n is a natural number other than 1. Example 1, we're going to rewrite using radicals. Then simplify if possible. That means both index number and the exponent, which is right here, the fractions, has nothing in common. You cannot reduce it, so we will take a look at that. Then simplify if possible, assuming that all variables represent non-negative values. When we talk about the first one, you should realize this is going to be the n number, and to rewrite this problem, 36 underneath, and then because the square root is 2 right here, that's where the n number is. But because it's a square root, we don't really write it. We write it as just a square 36. And what they are saying is, okay, now I want you to reduce it or simplify it. So square root of 36 is just 6. That's called simplifying. So that's when they say simplify if it's possible. So you need to break it out of the square root. Next one is going to be, again, you have 81, and then that is the index number. So therefore, that's going to be square root with a 4. Now, it's a very important thing. That 4 has to be inside the little checker mark. If you put it on the outside, it will be wrong. So when you reduce this, you can remember 81. If I break it down, 3, that's 27, 3, that's 9, 3, and 3, and therefore there's a group of 4 of them. So it matches the 4 to make a group. So the answer will be just 3. I just want to put down it takes 3 to make a group. And that's why the answer is 3. Just to double check, you guys understand that. Now, I'm going to try letter C. For the next part, you have the index number is going to be 1 over 3. So therefore, the index is right here. And it's negative 125. Since it's in the parentheses, I'm going to put the whole thing underneath the cube rule. When you have a 3, you say cube. So now after that, what I'm going to do is taking the 125 and break it down. And that's a 5. And that's 25, and 5 again, divided by 25 is 5. Because it's an odd root, and I can have a negative inside of the root, and that's why the answer is negative 5. So letter D tells you 4th root on the outside, and you have a negative 64 inside. Now remember, if you have an even root, that's not going to be possible. So the answer for this problem is going to be no solution. Eventually, we will talk about it's possible, but not right now. So that's no solution. That's D. When you don't have a negative inside a parenthesis, is the problem that's negative 36 and square root like that. The half you have only attached to whatever is next to it. All right, then it is 36. So when you do that, you can definitely take square 36 is 6. So the answer is negative 6. Example F is very basic. You just have to write it in the radical form. So please try it. Try F and all the way through I. Letter F is just denominator is 5. So your index number is 5. Notice is within the check mark. And then that's the X. G, you have half. Don't forget, remember I say it's attached to whatever is next to it. And since you are attached to a parenthesis, that whole parenthesis have to go underneath the square root. And therefore, if you want to, I can put the parenthesis on it. And that's going to be the same thing as square root of 64 times square root of x over x to the 6th power. So it's really not that big deal. So you take a square root of 64 is 8. You take square root of x to the 6th power is x to the 3rd. Next one, the only thing remember is only attached to the things that next to it. So therefore 12 is not attached to it. Everything is breaking down with a multiplication sign. So if you see the multiplication sign, that is where the stopping point. So 12 is on the outside. Z is the only one taking the 4 fourth root. So that's just fourth root of z. And then going on to I, the whole thing is in the parentheses, so I'm putting a whole square root of it over it. Here's the parentheses. Then you can break it down to top and bottom. They are the same thing. And then so a to the 6, a to the third power. When you have a square root to a to the 6. When you have square root 36, that's 6. And therefore, that's the answer for I. Next topic, rational expressions with a numerator other than 1. Remember, notice all your little fraction exponents all 1. So now we are going to discuss when they are not 1. So now looking at the rules. If you have general rules for rational exponents, a is m over n. M is not 1 anymore. So therefore, that's just the exponent inside and n goes outside. Exponent stay inside, index number goes outside, denominator goes outside, numerator goes inside. Or you can write it as you have a m over the whole parenthesis. Either one is okay. Most of the time, I like to see everything gets reduced first before I multiply into the higher power. So we'll see which one is easier and which way do you guys like. Example 2 says rewrite using radicals. Then simplify is possible. Assume that all variables represent non-negative values. So start with 8. 3 is the index number, so I'm going to put 3 on the outside. 8 is in the inside, and I'm going to write it down as square, or I'm going to write it down as 3, 8 square on the outside. Now, personally, I prefer the second way. The first way, 3 to the 64. And you're going to break it down 64, and that's 4. The second way is cube root to the 8. Well, you know that's 2. 2 to the second power is equal to 4. See how much easier if you break it down based on the 8 compared to a 64. When you do 64, you have to do 2, 32, then 2 again, 16, 2 again, 8, then you have 2 again, you have 4, and you have 2, and then 2. And then you have a gap of 3. But if you do 8, break it down to 4, 2, 2. Your work is much more reduced. Either way is okay, but I prefer the second way. This is number 1. This is the second way. Hope you guys are okay with either one. Second one, equal to 625, fourth root on the outside, cube root on the inside. And because I told you guys I like the cube, break it down to the small one, then cube it. It's so much easier. And that's what I'm going to do from now on. But please understand, you can switch both ways. So 625, I'm going to break it down 5, 1, 2, 5. And then you're going to be 5 again, 25, 5. 5. So since I have 4 of them, I know that's going to be 5. And then I'm going to raise to the third power. And that's 125. And that's a group of 4 of them. And then next one. Next one, remember that's negative 1 times 9. It's really negative 9. Square root to the 5th power. The negative sign and 9 are separated. Square root means the index number is 2. You can put it right there, but you don't have to. Negative 9, square root negative 9 is 3, so negative 3. That whole thing to the 5th power, negative 243. So please give it a try. Example D, E, and F. Example D, I put 1 over 9 inside the square root. Denominator is 2. The index number is 2, so therefore it's a square root. 5 is on the outside because it's much easier to break down to a smaller number and then make it bigger. So square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 9 is 3. So it's 1 over 3 to the 5th power, and 3 to the 5th power is 243D. And then E, there's nothing to break down. 3 is in the cube position, and second is on the outside, but I put down both ways for you guys to take a look so you know either way is correct. But it's very, very important that if you have to write the 2 inside the cube root, please make sure it is long enough to make sure you cover the 2. F right here, again, the denominator is your index number, which is 5, and exponents 3. I put it either on the inside or on the outside. Either way is correct. On the next variation, negative rational exponents. Rule rational exponents. When a is to the negative m over n, that's equal to 1 over a to the m over n. Where a does not equal 0, and m and n are natural numbers. Natural numbers means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go on. and then n does not equal to 1. So technically, it's really just start with 2. So now, going on to the example, rewrite using radicals. Then simplify if it's possible. So when I see a negative sign in the exponent, so a is equal to 1 over 81 to the half power. And after I flipped it, I would say that's 1 over square root of 81. So I'm going to put down 1 over 9. And that is how you flip negative exponent and then simplify just following the other rules. Please try B and C. For letter B, you have 16 to the negative 3 over 4. I flipped it over. That become 1 over 16 and 3/4. And my index number is 4. I'm going to make that small first, then take it to the third power. Fourth root of 16, 2. 2 to the third power is 8. 1 on top, so it's 1 over 8. Then C, right here, you have a negative sign right here. So this negative sign is very interesting. It flips the top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Now because this is a fraction, so I'm going to do a switch right away. And then once I switch, notice I still have not done anything with the half. So my half stays. And just the negative sign is gone. And then what you're going to have is you can write it under the square root, 25 over 16. And then you can break it down, 5 over 4. Now, eventually, if you want to skip the steps right here, you are more than welcome to. That's example A, B, and C. Please try example D, E, F, and G, H, I yourself, and we will check the answer. For example, letter D, same thing, negative sign brings down the negative 60 because the negative sign right here is in the parentheses, so the whole thing goes down. And then cube root is on the outside square, and cube root negative 64 is negative 4 square. Because the negative sign is inside the root of 3, it's totally okay to have a negative 4 to the second power. Negative 4 in parentheses to the second power is 6. It's going to be positive 16 because it's negative 4 times negative becomes 16. Letter E, flip it over, and that's square root 1/2. Square root 1/2 is just written a different way with a radical 49, and that's going to be radical 49 is going to be 1 over 7. Letter F, it gets a little tricky, so I want to go over a little bit more. The negative sign is not in the parenthesis with 27, so 27 is the only one gets flipped. So gets flipped after that 2 over 3. Now because that is not part of the negative sign inside the parenthesis, there's going to be a difference. So cube root of 27 is 3. Square is a 9. But because that it's a negative on the outside, that sign stays. If you actually attach it to the 27 and put down negative 27 right here, you're going to get a negative 3, but it's going to be square. So be careful where you put your parentheses. Letter G is the same idea. You just flip the number over because there's a fraction already. That's why I did. But I don't know where the negative sign comes from, so I'm going to erase that. All right, so now what you're going to do, because I flipped it, so I have a negative number right here. And then when you have a negative, you flip it over and 3 over 4. And then that index number is 4, so it's going to be square root 81 over 16 to the third power. 81 to the fourth power is 3. 16 to the fourth root of 81 is 3. Fourth root of 16 is 2. So over 3 over 2 to the third power is 27 over 8. You have the negative sign right here, flip it over, but half is going on the bottom, so it's going to be square root 49, that's 1 over 7. On the next one, you have a negative 8 in the parentheses, so negative 8 has to stay in the parentheses. Flipping it, so since this is in the numerator, it's going to be over the 1 over the denominator when you flip it. 5 over 3 stayed the same. The index number is 3 and the exponent is 5. And when you work it out, cube root of negative 8 is negative 2 to the fifth power. You still will have a negative sign, so therefore there's the negative sign because there's 5 of them. And then 2 to the fifth power is going to be 32. That concludes with the negative exponents. So one more idea, twist. Right radical is an expression raised to the rational exponent. So now we are going to write backwards. I'm going to give you a radical, and you guys are going to write it into a fraction. So before we are going from here left to right, now we're going to get right to left. So in this case, remember outside is the index number, and that's in the bottom. That's going to in the denominator. So that's 4. 3 is the exponent, and then it's going to be 3. So the answer for A is x to the 3 over 4. 3 is the exponent, 4 is the index number. Let's try letter B. And when you have the letter B, it's 1 over x to the 2 over 3. Now, because that's in the denominator, we can definitely flip it to make it x to the negative 2 over 3. And that will be your answer. Now, the reason why you need to know how to flip back and forth like this is eventually we're going to do all kind of different things with all the exponents. So you need to know how to flip back and forth. The next one, C. Z, 5 is the index number, goes on the bottom. 3 is the exponent, goes on top. And that is it, z to the 3/5. So please try example D, E, F, and then we'll discuss the answer. Letter D, the answer is just 3x minus 5 to the 5/4. Same thing. Index number is in the denominator. 5 is the exponent, goes on top. Same thing here, but the exponent rules first. So that's cube root, fourth root is on the bottom. 3 is the exponent, but then I have to flip it to the top. So that's why I add a negative sign right here. That tells me to flip. Letter F is just a to the 3/7. Index number on the 7 on the bottom. 3 is on top as exponent. So that concludes the notes. Thank you so much for watching.